Hello there. We're going to continue down the sort of nerd fest. What I'm going to go over today are the changes in the characters on the back of the card backs. And so what we're going to go over are some of the variables or variations of the figures that appeared. You know, there are definitely changes in some of the figures. We've already gone over the special offers, but they'll obviously come into play just because they do. Anyways, you'll see. You'll see what, at least this is my conjuring of what things are like. You know, maybe it's just my twisted opinion. But anyways, so we're going to go over those today. And then at the end, I'm actually going to do something different that I haven't done. Is I'll give you kind of a preview of some things that I'm actually working on with some great help, with some great people, and we'll go over that. All right. So I'm not going to go over the 12 backs just because we all know the first 12 figures. We all know those card backs very well. But the first card back to come up with that there was any changes was the TwentyBack. Now this is the TwentyBack A. Again, what tells us the TwentyBack A is from the proof of purchase down here in the lower corner. But in terms of the characters, you can see now we have the next 8 all in sort of with their colored backdrops and sort of stacked on against the little pictures of the other figures. The one note here is that the 20A, you still have the vinyl cape Jawa. Okay. So anyway, so they go from 20 backs now. The other 20 back that was released was, of course, the Fett offer 20 back. And this setup down here of all the figures contains the same figures that it did before, including the vinyl cape. But it's missing, you know, this block right here, which we all know is, of course, Boba Fett. And so that is kind of, you know, really nothing very different about that. This was, of course, very different than the drawings on the original 12 backs. So when they went to the 21 back, they sort of adopted the same kind of style that the 20 back had and put these larger blocks up here for all the new figures. And now we have the included, what I call the Brady Bunch up here, with the housekeeper in the middle, which would make sense for an assassin like Boba Fett anyways. But what they have changed is now they've gone to the cloth cape. Okay. But again, all the rest of these figures are pretty much the same. All right. So now when we get out of the Star Wars cards and we get into the Empire Strikes Back cards, the first transition card was one we talked about, which was the 21 back. And this is what we had discussed in the Kellerman 2 sort of changes, is that this is going to be more of a 21A. Again, it's more of the 20 back Fett offer, except now, again, Fett has been replaced with an actual picture. And once again, you see that it is a cloth cape Jawa. So really no changes in there. And again, the only figures that are on the first ESB card back are, of course, the Star Wars figures. The only figure that's from ESB is, of course, the Fett, but that was a special offer before. Okay, so now we get into the first card back that was basically offered that had Empire Strikes Back figures on it, and that was the 31 back. Now, this is a 31B, so it's not a 31A, so but I'm not going to go over these pictures down here. So what they did again is they have the same sort of setup. They have the block pictures with the colorful backdrops, and then they have here are the new figures right here. Okay, so you can see, you know, we know that at least from a debut card point of view, the offerless 31A for Bosk seems to be the one that's hard to find. But anyway, so that was kind of the general layout. And then, of course, the next card back they got to was the 32. And what they decided to do is they stuck Yoda up here in the corner. Okay, and you notice that Yoda here has an orange snake. It has that kind of light green color, but the rest of the pictures are all pretty much the same. Now, when we move to the next one, which are the 41 backs, the 41A, which is the survival kit offer. You know, once again, it's this sort of conglomerate of figure pictures. You can see they've been trimmed down a little bit, and they put R2 basically up in the corner. Okay, if you look for, where did he go? It's hard staring this thing. The Yoda still has the orange snake, and then the rest of them are pretty much the same. Now, the one thing to note is the Ugnaught here is his apron is somewhat of a bluish color, if my eyes don't deceive me, but that's what it looks like here. Okay, so it's something to kind of keep in mind. And so when we get to the 41B, so one of the things they've done is that instead of the R2 being up in the corner, they've moved R2 all the way down here. Okay, the rest of the pictures are the same. Again, the Ugnaught is blue, the Yoda is orange, meaning the snake, and most of the other pictures are the same standard ones they've used before. Okay, so now we'll get to the 41C is about the same. I thought there was no. All right, this is the one I want to get to. Okay, the ESP41D. Okay, so now we see a radical change in how they're basically displaying the figures on the back. First thing you notice, of course, they're not block photos. This is a group shot, so this had to be set up and photographed. One thing to note is that the Ugnaught's apron is a lot more purple. And of course I thought, well, maybe this was just camera filters, you know, something like that. But I think it really is purple, and looking at all the pictures that have been used before. The other thing that was very interesting to note is the Stormtrooper here, he's got the wrong gun. Okay, so look at your 41-backs. It's very interesting. He's obviously has a long rifle instead of the normal Imperial short barrel rifle. So that was something very interesting. And then, of course, Yoda still has the orange snake. And at least the rest of the figures are pretty much the same. You can see the new ones here: Rebel Commander, Lobot, Han Bespin, Ugnaught, 21B, blah, blah, blah. All right. So the next one we'll go to, let's see, that's the 41E. There's really not a lot of difference except the pictures at the bottom is the 45. Okay, so this is where things start to change even more. Okay, so for example, we have a yellow backdrop instead of the blue. Okay, so that's a big thing. We've got a couple of new figures here. We've got CCP, we've got the other Bespin Guard, so on and so forth. The other thing is that they've changed the 3PO and the R2. Obviously, this is a removable limb 3PO and a sensor scope R2. So that was very different, and they've taken them away from the group up here where they used to be. You can see the Stormtrooper still has the wrong weapon. Yoda down here still has the orange snake. And so that's pretty good. The other thing is that the Ugnaught now has gone back to more of a blue apron than the overt purple one that they had before. So anyway, so just a couple of notes about that. Next one, again, now we have the 47 back. They've added a couple of figures. We have the TIE Fighter, and then we have Zuckuss, and then the rest of them are sitting around here. The interesting thing on this one is that, you know, 4-LOM is the offer. You know, of course, 4-LOM does not appear up here, which is always interesting. But the most interesting thing to me is looking at the Yoda. Okay, now the Yoda has a different snake. This is no longer orange as it was before. Stormtrooper, while in a different position, still has the same wrong gun. And so they had to physically move him when they were doing the photography and still gave him the wrong gun. So I thought that was interesting. The Luke Farm Boy, you can see, is still a blonde-haired one, which it is in all the cards previous. And so that's just something to keep in mind. Where is he? Oh, also the Luke Hoth here has a weapon. Okay. So when we, and what was the other one? Also the commander here, he's got a weapon in his hand. Okay, so now we're going to go to the 48A. That was the next one. All right. And so on the 48A, now we've gone from 47 to 48, and guess what? Here's 4-LOM finally. So now that the offer's over, they've actually decided to put them on the card back. One thing to note is now the Lukes here and here, pretty sure that's right, are more of a dark brown, or not dark brown, but either the dirty blonde or light brown, whatever you would call them. So the Lukes have changed. Stormtrooper still has the wrong gun. Yoda still has a brown snake now. The Luke Hoth has no weapon. The commander here now has weapons around his shoulder or on his shoulder. And what was the other one? I think that's it. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some more little ones in there, but again, that's just interesting to note that the consistency is a little off, in terms of the figures. Now, I'm sure that they, hindsight is 20/20, and of course, when you have nerds like me looking for things like this, it's just something to kind of point out. All right, so that was the 48A. Now the 48B here is just the Akbar offer, and of course, now that they have an Akbar offer, there's no Akbar up here. Okay, so really, it should be collect all 49, but of course they decided not to do that. So we get rid of that one, and then of course the next one is just the printed offer of Akbar. Once again, Akbar is still not in. It should still be 49. And so this is the next one. So this is the first Jedi card. So again, no Jedi figures were on this card back. You have a new offer, Mr. Num. And what's interesting is it still says collect all 48, but now there are 50, right? Because now you've got Num and you've got Akbar, who's still not on this card. So just, again, just kind of a numbers thing, kind of funny to me to look at. But all of the other changes, like Luke Hoth not having a gun, the gun on the shoulder, the back to blue apron, the wrong gun on the Stormtrooper, all these things are still consistent. The brown hairs on the Lukes here, still there. And some of these variants, which are funny, are actually harder to find than what's shown on the card back. All right, so now we get to the first Jedi card that has Jedi figures, which is the 65 back. And they start all the new figures starting here. Okay, there's a couple of things of note with the new figures. One is the Bib Fortuna has got a basically light brown cape. Yoda still has a brown snake, or still no gun. You look at the Luke, still brown hair. The Bespin Luke, still brown hair. But guess what? The Stormtrooper now has his regular gun. So somebody caught on that they needed to do that. The other thing that was interesting is that now the Cloud Car pilot is talking on his comm communicator, as before he was just holding it. So now he's got it up to his mouth and he's talking. Anyways, again, I can't overemphasize the nerdiness of this. The other thing is that the Jawa now has his cape off his head, or his cloak off his head, whatever you want to say, whereas the one before is on his head. So just some dorky thing to notice. So anyway, so that's the next one. That's a 65A. And of course you still have these black blobs here, which were the two new Ewoks. They didn't, since they were releasing that card pretty much before the movie, they didn't want that to get out. So here was the first card that actually shows those two Ewoks, which you see right here. And really there's no other changes. All of the funny variations of the characters are the same. So we get into the next one, which is the 65C, which is the Emperor offer. There's no Emperor up here. But you do have the other two offers that were noted. Obviously Akbar, Num are right there. And that's really the only thing that was really added. In fact, the next card in the 65 back series is 65D with the Anakin offers. So now they don't have Anakin and they don't have the Emperor. Okay, so that's always a very interesting thing to note. So now we get into the first or the next change in numbers, true numbers. Now we go up to 77. Okay, so they added the Emperor. Okay, there's no Anakin though. Okay, so the Anakin offer is kind of flat, made of flash, but still not on here. You have some of the new ones down here, especially there's a couple of Ewoks that are new. Now what's interesting is if you look at the Luke Jedi, now one, he's got the hood up and it's kind of a brown cape. But if you go to the one before, it's a black cape and the hood's kind of off. All right, so that's very interesting. The other thing, as I said before, you notice the Bib Fortuna here. This is on the 65 back. when you go to the 77 back, now it's the red burgundy cape. Now we all know that you're not finding that one that often, so that was very interesting. And now also the Cloud Car pilot's not talking to himself, or not talking on his comm anymore, so that's always interesting. And now also, where's that little guy? Let me look for him. There he is. Okay. Well, this is a Mandalorian preview here, whereas the Jawa and the Boba Fett are together. But anyways, now, once again, the Jawa's hood is up. And so, again, those are, cool notables. Also, the blue saber with the Luke Jedi is always a cool notable. So anyway, so you go to the 77B, which is, guess what, an Anakin offer, and there's no Anakin on here. So we're still stuck with the same number of figures. It should be, again, now it should be 78, but it's not. Now when we go to the 79 backs, 79, there were two new ones, and they're kind of mixed in. So we have Paplu and Lumat. That's for Eric. But anyway, so they're there. And the other thing they did is they moved the Emperor's Royal Guard was here, whereas before it was up here. Okay, so they kind of moved things around. But interestingly enough, the burgundy cape's still there. The brown cape Luke is still there. All the Lukes are still brown hairs up here. The hood's still on. Anyway, so that's kind of, again, kind of interesting in some of those changes. And then the next one is the 79B, which is another Anakin offer. No Anakin up here again, but all the figures pretty much remain the same. And same thing, the last one, which is the 79C. Now the Anakin offer is printed, but still no Anakin on here. Okay, all right. So that's kind of a very quick rundown of most of the figure changes. I'm sure there are some in there that I'm not talking about, or at least didn't notice over my examination of it. But it just kind of gives you a feel on kind of some of what are the changes. Okay, now, as I said before, I'm going to do something I haven't done before. Is I'm going to talk about in a future video the two topics, or two topics that I'm going to approach. It might not necessarily be the next one. Are going to be price tags. We all remember going to the store, buying figures, and the stores have a very particular price tag. In fact, there's a lot of people that actually collect price tags. A lot of different ones. They give you a lot of different information, so we'll go over some of those. But the mystery that I'm currently working on right now has to do with these numbers right here. Now, I don't know if you guys have ever noticed these numbers that are down basically at the bottom of the bubble, but they convey some very interesting information. And so, of course, that's what I'm kind of digging around for, because quite honestly, I had never noticed them before looking at these cardbacks so closely. So we're working on it. I've got some help from some people to kind of decipher the code, but we're very close. But anyways, all right, well, that's kind of, again, another kind of nerdy rundown of the cardbacks and the changes that were with the figures that they used to promote the Collect All series. Anyways, hope you guys stay safe. Have fun. Enjoy your day. All right, bye.